Well, things seem to have escalated fairly quickly. Welcome back, my friends. It is June 14th, 2021, and if I didn't know any better, I would say that the hurricane fairy came and sprinkled a little hurricane dust on the Atlantic Ocean. Because it really does feel like overnight we had a bunch of additions to what we've already had going on and what we talked about yesterday. Just take a look at the stretch basically from the west coast of Africa, all along the equator, stretching to Hawaii, it looks like, with the Pacific Ocean's tropical storm Carlos. We are specifically going to be talking about these three in the Atlantic Ocean, one of which we are sort of familiar with over the last couple days, and then two more that seem to have just come out of nowhere. No matter how much we prepare or talk about it, it seems like when the season finally does get that start, it really never ceases to amaze us and remind us of how quickly it can happen and how much we are really not in control whatsoever. Alright, so let's just orientate ourselves and go over what we talked about yesterday. Obviously, all we had on our disturbance chart was our 40% chance of cyclone formation here in the Gulf. We're looking at a snapshot of the video from yesterday, and as you can see, it was the only disturbance we had on the chart. So in turn, naturally, if we did have any sort of formation of a tropical storm or anything higher than a tropical depression, chances are this would have been named Tropical Storm Bill. Now, of course, that's only if this thing forms as they are saying it's going to form, which is exactly what we're going to look at now. So, where did these come from? Why are they here? Which one's going to form? Which isn't going to form? All right, now each one of these has its own little thing going on. Two of them are fairly similar in that they're already invests, as in they're farther along than just a disturbance. Now this here is a disturbance, which means it's only a small chance of forming right now. So you can see here, it's 20% chance of cyclone formation over the next 5 days. That is our yellow color. But then we got this guy right here, 70% chance of cyclone formation in the next 5 days. Now this came out of nowhere, which really isn't nowhere. It just came off of land rather than forming in the ocean and being something we can watch approach the United States. This is also fairly common, but will affect the Carolinas. Whether it forms into any sort of cyclone or a tropical storm, chances are this thing will just eat up one of our names in our hurricane alphabet and maybe swing up towards Canada a little bit, Nova Scotia, and those far eastern parts of the Canadian coast before getting caught back up in the Bermuda Atlantic bubble and kind of getting recycled. And what's even more interesting is that this new disturbance, this new Invest 93L is its name, as we've already had 92L named here in the Gulf. But now that there's two of them, it's going to change a little bit. So whichever one reaches the threshold of a tropical storm category, which is when either of these two storms, the first one to reach 39 miles an hour, will be then named a tropical storm and then given one of our names from the hurricane list. As you can see here on the Saffir-Simpson scale, which we use to measure our hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean. So long story short, either one of these could become a Tropical Storm Bill if they do become tropical storms. It depends on which one happens first. Even though we've had this Invest here first, it has not crossed that 39 mile per hour threshold to become a tropical storm, which is when it's given a name. So either one of these could be Tropical Storm Bill, and then one of them could become Tropical Storm Claudette. We just don't know. And it's also possible that neither of these take up a name. Alright, so enough about what we don't know. Let's talk about what we do know and what we can assume is going to happen. Now we know, as I hit play here, we need to hit play to be able to see what's going on. We've got a lot of action going on here in the Bay of Campeche. You can see down where Mexico meets Texas and then swinging down into the Gulf all the way to Cancun, where we have that gap between Cuba and the tip of Cancun here that enters the Gulf. But this entire pocket is just loaded with moisture. Check that out. I'm going to go ahead and pause it there. Now we can look at two areas that look pretty similar. So we're looking at Central America here, and then I want you to focus a little bit on the west coast of Africa just to give you the answers you need to why we're seeing a disturbance over there. So the National Hurricane Center is noticing a big, large group of storms right here. As you can see, if I move the dial, you can see they are really blowing up there. This is the beginning phase for hurricanes that begin way over here near the west coast of Africa. Usually later in the season is when we see these starting to form. So seeing this is a bit interesting, but that's how these begin. Hurricanes begin with a large group of storms that start sucking up that warm air off the surface of the ocean, and then that air expands out over the cloud tops and then starts beginning a counterclockwise rotation. That will happen over time. It may not happen with this one right here, but we're gonna see it soon. So now keep that same concept when we're looking over here between South and North America, where most of our cyclones do form this time of year. So it's normal to see this crazy moisture here, but as I hit play, just look at how this is all expanding and blowing up. That's the first signs and the first ingredients needed to start these storms. That's why we have an Invest here, as well as Tropical Storm Carlos out here. So whether it's the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic, this is just a super hot spot for June, July, and even parts of August. And then it comes back towards the end of the season as the hot spot when the peak of the season dies down, which we get mostly from the west coast of Africa. I know, that's a lot to take in. All right, and now what we're going to be able to do here on Tropical Tidbit is look at each one of these and what they're projected to do as of right now. This data will absolutely change. I'm telling you that right now. So what you're seeing on the chart here, chances are will not be what happens in the end. So we are set for June 14th. Don't even pay attention to this right here. This is already come and gone. It's getting whipped up by the Bermuda Atlantic bubble right here. So each click is 6 hours, and we're going to go ahead and point out each of these disturbances. Now we can see right here the 20% chance of cyclone formation, which is here in yellow. And now what you're going to see with this updated chart that we have, let's switch over to this real quick. We're going to see this guy right here, 93L, come and go basically before we even see 92L form. So that's what's interesting here, is that we've had 92L sitting here, we've been forecasting it, and now out of nowhere 93L is forming and may come and go, taking up a name and just whipping out into the Atlantic Ocean, then in turn would cause this to become Tropical Storm Claudette, if indeed this makes it to tropical storm status before hitting the Gulf states. All right, enough talking. Let's get some clicks in here. As we move forward to the 15th, you could see that already our Invest 93L has come off the coast, already affected the outer banks of the Carolinas, and now is already up towards the northeast, basically parallel with Long Island. So we could see it's a quick mover, and more than likely will not be an effect on the United States as anything significant. In fact, the earlier parts of the storm, as I click backwards, you can see will affect the outer banks. As it moves away from the United States, it will have less and less effect until we actually see it cross over the top of the Bermuda Atlantic bubble. Again, possibly clipping parts of Canada here as severe weather, but then that would be the end of it. And just as that's happening, we can now look down into the Bay of Campeche and see that we are seeing the next cyclone formation, the one we've been watching. And as we hit that and we go click by click, you can see that that upper eastern quadrant right around here, which is projected to really affect parts of the southeastern coast of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and parts of that panhandle of Florida, almost like deja vu from last year, but that is the expected forecast as of now. And we also got to understand that we have a lot of room for change. Yes, it's not a huge gap between where this low pressure system is forming now and where it's expected to go, and we'll get in a little tighter here, but basically not too much has changed as far as where the bulk of the system is going to go. And you can see right now that northeast quadrant is really hitting the border between Louisiana and Mississippi. So once we get a little closer to this date between the 17th and the 19th, we're going to get way down in here and try to pick apart exactly what areas are going to need to really start focusing on preparing for yet another busy hurricane season, Louisiana taking the brunt of last year. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Any significant updates or information that we need to know will come out. We are dealing now with our second tropical disturbance, and chances are the 70%er that's coming right off the Carolinas will scoop up that name Bill, even if it's just for an hour. If it hits above that 39-mile-per-hour mark, it's going to come and go, and then we might be dealing with Claudette down here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to Canada. Be safe. Enjoy the day. I'll be back soon. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all, and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.